Welcome back to Collectability. Today we're going to discuss how Patek Philippe can help you get in shape. Shaped watches, that is. But before we get started, please push that subscribe button now and also comment below after you watch this video. It will be very much appreciated. So it's almost spring, which means it's time to get in shape, or in a shaped watch at least. And today we're going to look at some unusually shaped watches, mostly rectangular. And there's lots of buzz around the Cubitus right now, and I'm glad to see a trend where more people looking for rectangular and shaped watches, from a classic square shape to asymmetrical to tonneau, cushion, and rectangular. Shaped watches are very interesting for a lot of people today, and I am a big fan of shaped watches, and it's a pleasure and honor to share it with you, some pieces from our inventory today. So from the earliest days of wristwatches, Patek Philippe has been pushing the boundaries in design with rectangular and shaped watches. If you look back, turn of the century, last century, 1905, 1910, you see some very interesting shapes, some really large size rectangles, and then it just gets very creative throughout the 20th century. And some of the pieces we're seeing today, dating back from the 1940s to more recent years, are some of the signature rectangular watches from Patek Philippe. So let's get started from oldest to newest. For a watch well under $10,000, the 425 is, I think, one of the best entry-level Patek Philippe rectangular watches money can buy. It was in production, this particular reference, from 1934 through 1960, and one of the most recognizable of mid-century rectangular watches from the world of Patek Philippe. This elegant example was made in 1941, sold in 1942, and as I said before, for well under $10,000, you get a big look on the wrist, an important bit of Patek Philippe's history at the same time. Now, moving ahead, the 1450 top hat is something that you need to know. If you don't know that reference off the top of your head, it's one of those 10 references that you just need to know, because the top hat is one of the most unusual and distinctive Patek Philippe designs from the mid-century. This is a small watch with a giant personality, and here we have a coveted platinum example of a 1450, which has a black dial set with diamonds. And this was originally an evening watch. The bracelet is later added, but I actually think is absolutely fabulous. But platinum cocktail watches were very much in vogue in the mid-20th century, and they were often diamond set for men. It is the ultimate evening watch from the past that can be used all the time today. So moving ahead, early 1950s, we start seeing from Patek Philippe some really bold case designs as Patek Philippe was exploring the endless possibilities of design. And here we have this fantastic scalloped form hooded Patek Philippe reference 2517. This particular example was from the early 1950s, and it was nicknamed the accordion for obvious reasons. It has an accordion look from those hooded lugs. The case was crafted by Georges Crassier, who was a celebrated case maker of that time, and it's considered a rare gem in Patek Philippe 1950s design. Only 60 examples of this model were ever produced. Only 9 have surfaced to date, and this is one of those 9 pieces known to exist today, which further enhances this watch as a collectability treasure. I wanted to jump ahead and show you something from the 60s. This is called the 3523. And you could see as time went on, watches became a bit thinner. And Patek Philippe was really focused on making something sensibly thin. And in the 60s, in this race for thinner watches, I think this particular 3523 really represents that aesthetic. This cushion form is just absolutely beautiful. It's comfortable to wear. It can be worn in an evening watch, or even this white strap kind of gives it like a daytime look. It's just a fun piece to have from the 1960s at a very interesting price point. The 1980s happened. What can I say? The 1980s were a time of exploration, nods to the past, and some designs which some would say should be forgotten, but I say should be remembered. And the Le Grec family is one of those designs families that needs to be remembered. When the Le Grec was launched by Patek Philippe in 1982, it was with much fanfare. It was like Greek mania in the US, where people wanted to see Corinthian columns in front of their house and on their wrist. And the family remained in the line until 1987, and there were over a dozen different Le Grec models. And this particular example is, I think, one of the more attractive and rare examples of the Le Grec family, and it's called the 4631 Line 1J. What makes this interesting, it's manually wound, so it is not quartz. It's the smaller size, and it has the black dial. And to see a black dial with that Greek key pattern is, I think, just really fun. It's whimsical. It has a boldness that you could only see in the 1980s. And this particular example is preserved in near mint condition and is ready for your wrist with that rare dial configuration. It is my pleasure and honor to show you one of the rarest pieces that were made for women in the 1970s. And I think today, on a man or a woman, you'll make a statement with this watch, because this is a 4241 line 906J. And this example is one of the later ones that came out in the early 80s. And it actually is the last known example of a 4241. It's rare, it's large, it's bold, and it's made with these 22 pieces of lapis that it just has a look that I've heard it described as the Harlequin. It's the Harlequin watch, and I think that really captures the spirit of the era. It's a masterpiece of design. It is, it's something that if you appreciate jeweler design, gem setting, and just the boldness of Patek Philippe from this era, this particular watch is for you. It's a simple masterpiece. In the 70s, we also saw this shape and look become quite popular. The look I'm discussing is onyx dials. Stone dials were quite popular. But here we have a cushion case reference, 3732, which is it was made between 76 and 1978, and only 8 examples of this reference are known to exist to this day. It's a big look on the wrist, originally made for a man, but could be easily worn by a woman. And the onyx dial makes a statement to itself with those Dauphine hands. This particular watch, I think, is something for someone who wants a bold aesthetic. Maybe they're just buying their first vintage watch. Maybe you're looking for a birth year watch from the late 70s. There's a lot of reasons to consider this piece for your collection. Fast forward to 1997. Look at this, a 5500G. So the so-called pagoda came out and was a commemorative piece meant to celebrate the opening of the new factory in Geneva, the new workshops in Plaine-l'Ouate. This watch is aging so well. I mean, I'm just wearing it. I haven't worn a 5500 in years, but to have a white gold with the salmon dial, it's capturing my heart once again. I mean, just look at how that shapes and fits on the wrist. It not only is it comfortable, the shaped crystal with the curvature of the case, it's architectural. It's an architectural wonder that you can wear. Now, according to the 1997 brochure, Patek Philippe made this watch to fill in the gap of historic design in private collections. And they said it was inspired by 1940s model, which is absolutely true, the 2441. And they said, quote, it reconciled beauty and function in a streamlined sculpture of curves for the wrist. And I think that's language that only Patek Philippe could use, and it's beautiful. And for the men, there were 1,100 examples made. There were only 250 of that 1,100 were made in white gold with the rose-colored dial, as we see here with the Roman numerals. So it is a limited edition, will never be made again, one of 250. And I think if you don't have a 5500 on the wrist, here's your chance to buy one at a nice price point. And it is just architecture that you will appreciate on your wrist for generations to come. Now, once the production was completed of the 5500, famously Patek Philippe said they destroyed the dies and they'll never be made again. And that is fact. And for the detailed story behind these exceptional timepieces called the 5500, please read the article on collectability.com by my colleague Tanya Edwards. There is a lot to learn about this particular reference. Next, 5489 in white gold. This example is from 2007, and it was originally branded as the Gondolo Trapeze and really celebrated for its asymmetrical look that was directly from the era of Gilbert Albert from the 50s and 60s. And the 5489, I think only now is beginning to become understood from the collecting community of how important these are. It was a modern piece that I think came out probably 10 years too early. People didn't understand it. If this came out today, people would go mad with this drive for rectangular and shaped form watches. But alas, Collectability has you covered. You could still buy a 5489 today. They were made in white gold and in rose gold. And there aren't so many of these out in the marketplace because it's a sleeper that's starting to wake up. And I just look forward to seeing how these start to age in the future. It's a wearable work of art from the modern vintage era. Last but not least is a 5124. This is a piece from 2010 and has direct nods to 1920s through 1940s design. And just look at the stepped lugs, the curvature of the case, and of course the daggered applied gold batons on the dial. It's a piece with a big personality, and they're so reasonable to buy today. I mean, for an entry-level pre-owned watch, a 5124 is something that I highly recommend. So please comment below on which of these is your favorite and what shaped and rectangular watches capture your heart. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to Collectability on YouTube, Instagram, and also TikTok so that you don't miss any future posts. Thanks again, and enjoy the hunt.